Welcome, guys. So this is our monthly Titan Talk, and I'm really excited for today's episode because this month we are spending our time talking about business planning, and no better way to start bringing in our Titan Talk for the month with the expert Ben Newman and an expert in the field of business planning. Ben, how are you doing?
Ashwin, I'm doing great. Anytime I get to hang with you, it's always fantastic, and even more exciting to be with everybody you have an opportunity to work with all the time.
You know, it's in a lot of our coaching calls, for the audience, I bring up Ben quite a bit. Ben's been working with me since I think it was 2017 after the Dominican Republic boot camp. I called you up. I remember exactly where I was at that gas station out on, the coast of Washington. Called you up, left you that voicemail. You called me back, and I said, hey, please to God, take me on as a coaching client. And so, fast forward 10 years, we've accomplished a lot. And, the reason why I wanted to bring you on for this episode is because over the 10 years that we've been working together, you've done a really great job changing my mindset to not think so much as just a financial advisor, but more like a business owner. And I've seen you do that, with some of the top advisors around the country. I've seen you do that in the sports field with coaches as they've, not treated so much their teams as, hey, I'm just your coach. It's, hey, no, we got to treat ourselves like we're businesses, even as individuals, right? And continue to grow and continue to improve ourselves and continue to create impact. So before we jump into it, I want to turn the mic over to you, Ben. Give us a little bit of context about your background, your start in the business field, and then we'll take it from there.
First off, I appreciate the opportunity to be with you, even still now, all the growth that you've had and the continued opportunities we have, and the continued opportunities that I've watched you step into to now coach and to lead others, which created the opportunity that we're on right now. It's just been incredible to watch you. And I know, just like for everybody listening, because of the example that you're setting, and even for you, the best is yet to come. And so much of that really does come down to your mindset and how you choose to show up every day. And from the day I met you when you were an intern, I mean, it's amazing how fast time flies, but as an intern, you've always made a choice to think bigger than where you were, to not allow my age to hold me back, but to really lean into the opportunity. So I just ask everybody listening to really lean in to us, maybe stretching how you normally think, maybe choosing to get uncomfortable, which is really my story. I've had to deal with uncomfort my entire life, from the uncomfort of things that many people would look back on what I had to go through as a child and say that was unfair. Yet when I look back on it, everything happens exactly the way that it's supposed to. I would give anything to have my mother back. Her passing far too soon in my life has created a burn for me to never waste a day. But it's also what opened doors to me having amazing mentors and coaches who are still with me today, who helped me get through some of the toughest times in my life. So challenge and adversity has shaped me, it's molded me, and it's helped me understand that when we choose to get uncomfortable, when we choose to lean in, especially when it comes to planning, because it comes with this. Like I mentioned, Ashwin always started with thinking bigger, thinking beyond what the normal was. That makes you uncomfortable. So I encourage you, because it's all I've ever known. It's all I've ever known from Ashwin, that as we walk through this conversation together, know that I've been through the pain of the most significant loss that I ever could have imagined, losing my mom at 7 years old, to challenges that I've been to in business, challenges that I still have growing a business, that it's during those times, that's where we build our greatest strength. So I would just ask, let's all get uncomfortable together as we have this conversation.
Absolutely. So let's take it through, like I was mentioning before we hopped on here, we got a wide audience, right? We got the, financial advisor that's a few years in and just getting started and really kind of understanding, okay, I'm not just an advisor, I'm now a business owner, to the guys that have been doing this for 10 or 15 years. And so when we take a look at business planning and, game planning, we're going into 2025. A lot has changed in the financial advising space. You used to be an advisor, now you're one of the top performance coaches in the entire country. What does your business planning entail as you think about the upcoming year? What are the steps that you do? Do you typically carve out a day and just sit down and go, okay, here are my goals, I want to reverse engineer it, or what does that process look like for you?
First thing is we head into 2025, I would encourage everybody to ask yourself two questions. Number one, what are the habits and disciplines that you're leaving behind in 2024? You know, a lot of this, Ashwin, for all of us is we have to take that honest mirror of accountability, put it right in front of our faces, and know that it's okay that there were things you did in 2024 that didn't work out the right way, or maybe you created some areas that were poor disciplines. Don't trip on anything that's behind you, but let's just bring it to just leave it in 2024. Then you have to say to yourself, what are the habits and disciplines I'm bringing with me into 2025, so that when we think big and we set these new goals and we make ourselves uncomfortable, the disciplines we tie to the things that make us uncomfortable are the disciplines that have already caused you to win. So it's actually a pretty simple process, right? Keep doing the things that you know are going to cause you to win. And if you do more of those things and you leave behind wasting time, maybe not getting in your workouts, yes, we're going to talk about personal. You need to get your workouts in. You need to eat good. You need to fuel yourself as a business athlete. Otherwise, you are not going to perform at your highest level, period. Look at the shape that Ashwin is now getting himself into. Okay, it's not that Ashwin was ever in terrible shape, but Ashwin has now made health a priority. So now you're seeing massive growth in his business, a higher level of clients that he's working with, leading and coaching all of you, more speaking opportunities opening up for him sponsoring professional sports leagues, sponsoring our events, doing all these things because his energy level is different. So leave behind the things that aren't working, bring in the disciplines, but we cannot lose sight of that personal discipline to take care of you. Otherwise, we will never understand what that highest level is. So that's the first thing, those two questions. And then the second thing is, I would love for everybody to isolate the very biggest goal. If we were to say there's one goal, and so now I'm going to say not personal, just professional, I want all of you to think, what is the number one goal that you're most excited about? Is it a revenue goal? Is it an assets under management goal? Is it a whatever it might be? What's the one goal that you say, this is the one I'm most excited about? I want you to think of that big, powerful goal that fires you up. Just take a minute. Go ahead, Ashwin.
One thing I was going to hit on that, and I'm really glad, and then we'll come back to this big audacious goal. We call them big audacious goals in our coaching group. I love how you bring up the personal side of it. And you go, hey, it's all correlated. It's not like, hey, you could go out there and run a top, practice in the financial planning space or in anything, right? Without taking care of your personal health and taking care of your mental wellness. And, you mentioned that about me. That was a big transition as we were chasing top 20 with our previous firm. And now as we're chasing new heights with Mullen Coaching and Mullen Financial and all these different things, how it's all correlated. So I think that's very important. And we'll spend more time, guys, chatting more in depth on how to build that connection. But I think hitting the workouts, making sure your mind's right is very important. Now, continue, Ben, on the big audacious goal.
Yeah, so now that you've got that really big goal, now I want to encourage everybody, and Ashwin and I are going to call you out here, but I'm going to do it with love and care and almost 20 years experience in helping advisors just like you do planning. We all have a natural tendency to protect ourselves when it comes to goal setting, right? Not that the goal that you wrote down isn't a big goal, but typically it's a big goal that's probably connected to maybe a goal that you hit last year, and maybe you added 10% and you're going for that 10% growth, or it's this goal and I added 25%. I want you to ask yourself the question, did you really give yourself permission to go all in? Did you give yourself permission to really say, this is as big as I can possibly think? And this type of thinking, people would almost think I was crazy. Because until we get to that moment where people would look at your goal and say, Ashwin, there's no way, man, that is crazy. Then I believe we're on the right track for setting the right goals. And I want to put something into perspective for you. over the last 20 years. Now, right, this is one way you're listening to Ashwin and I today, but I ask this every time I have the opportunity to do business planning. I'll say to people, how many times over the last 20 years do you think I've hit my goals? Right? And I say this very humbly. I'm working with some of the top performers. I've been able to do some great things in the coaching space and in growing businesses. But how many times do you think I've hit my goals in 20 years? And a lot of times people say, I bet you've hit it all 20 times. I bet you've done this. I bet you've done that. Wrong. 2 times. So if we just look at revenue, 2 times in the last 20 years, I've actually hit my revenue goal. But let me share something with you. Our revenue has grown for 20 straight years because we continue to raise the bar of the expectation of our goals or what we're capable of achieving. So we've still had massive growth. We've only hit our goal twice in 20 years, but we've grown every year because I recognized many years ago that if you set a really big goal, even if you fall short, you find strength that you didn't know you had. Even when you fall short, you maybe have to have a different level of intentional focus where the pain of being disappointed causes you to look and say, gosh, I need to scrutinize why that happened. And if your goals are comfortable, you're not going to scrutinize yourself because you're going to easily hit your goals. If your goals are uncomfortable, you're going to operate with focus rather than the intentional focus that it takes to really figure out how big of goals you can hit. So I encourage you. And one other thing, if you set a really big goal and you fall short, what are the terrible, awful things that are going to happen to you? Nothing.
Yep.
Often great things happen because you build that strength, you have that different level of intentional focus, and you actually still grow beyond what you would have done if we just kept that really simple goal. So now I just want to encourage everybody. I welcome you. If you want to, look at the goal you wrote down and ask yourself, did I protect myself, or is that really me going all in? Is that really going to make me uncomfortable? Is that really going to drive strength that I didn't know I had? Is that really going to drive intentional focus? And we just want to give you permission to change it before we go any further today.
I think that's really important on what you just said on hitting it. 2 years is the only time that you've ever actually hit that revenue goal, but you still progressed every year. And I think a lot of people, to your point, they make those comments where they go, oh, I want to do X amount of revenue. And you look at that and you go, well, your revenue goal last year was maybe only 10% lower than what your goal is this year. What is that big difference, right? You see a lot of younger advisors go, hey, I just want to increase my premium or my revenue or my assets under management by 10%. But it's like, maybe it's just one tiny tweak and you increase it by 10%. That's not big enough. Let's get you to think even bigger. Maybe it's not 200, 300%, but maybe it's, hey, a 20 to 30% reasonable increase. And that's the goal to hit. And I think what a lot of people do is do exactly what you say. They are too protective behind these goals. And they go, hey, I don't know if I can achieve it. So what I want to do is, now that we've identified, Ben, that, okay, our big goals are here, and, we're going to continue to increase and hit that bar. What do you do that's tangible to kind of reverse engineer to figure out how you can hit those goals? What are the daily action steps that you kind of figure out in your planning, even now at the highest level, to go out there and hit those goals still every single year, or chase those goals every year?
So one of the most important things that you can do is make sure that all of the revenue buckets that are available to you, and as an advisor, there are so many revenue buckets that are available. Don't allow any of those revenue buckets to be closed ever. So it's actually really simple, right? So even though my business is different, we have revenue buckets in our business, right? Whether it's coaching, whether it's an event, whether it's building leaders, whatever it might be, we have different revenue buckets, right? Well, I have to have at least one POC, a point of contact, text message, email, phone call, DM on Instagram, video over a text message. One point of contact to every single one of our 5 main revenue buckets every day. Otherwise, that business is closed. And far too often, I see one of the mistakes that people make is that they choose to say, hey, I'm really busy in these 2 areas over here. I know I've got 5 areas where we generate revenue, but I'm so busy in these 2, I'm just not going to do it. And then we're mad when you fall massively short in a revenue bucket where you didn't do anything for months. So it's almost like, okay, if you didn't do anything, what's the real expectation that you're going to generate revenue? And what most people don't realize is when you take a really big goal and you break it down to small, manageable, bite-sized pieces daily that you attack daily and you don't skip days, it becomes non-negotiable to skip the work. Then you will drive revenue in all of those revenue buckets. Ashwin, you and I have had so many conversations, and we say this with big smiles on our faces. I remember when I was a financial advisor in the office that I grew up in here in St. Louis, Missouri, we had one of the top 5 advisors in the history of the firm, Fortune 100 firm, top 5 advisors ever. The guy couldn't put 2 damn sentences together. I mean, his sales language was terrible. He would always be playing with his hair. I mean, it was unbelievable. I went out on joint work with him one time. I'm like, that's it? And I realized very early the reason why he was so successful. It wasn't magic language. He did what he said he was going to do every single day. And when he won, he still did it. And when he won more, he still did it. And it became non-negotiable. And I see far too many advisors, because AUM and GDC checks and all these things are getting so big, and different products have different opportunities and big commissions. People win big and then they stop. And then they complain to us as coaches like, Ashwin, like, why am I? Well, you stopped doing what the hell you were doing. Like, how do you expect that you're going to make any money or drive revenue when you're not even doing what you know you need to do in order to generate impact and revenue? So I encourage you, take that really big goal, work with Ashwin beyond just now, break it down and say, what's the discipline? And then just do it. Do it every day. Do it when you win. Do it when you don't hear yes for weeks on end and you feel like you will never sell anything again. Just keep doing it, because winning in this business, winning in my business, and winning in selling widgets is a numbers game. And those who work harder are the ones who are going to win.
And I think it's like you've always taught, right? Always bringing it down to the prize fighter day. Taking those things, those tangible, daily steps, whether it be making those 40 phone calls a day or sending out those 40 text messages or whatever it might be, right? Making sure that that gets put on there. But I think the thing I love that you mentioned is you attack it even when you hit the wins. I think you and I have chatted about this over the years. There's so many people that hit the top and hit their goals, right? And then they'll go out there and then they'll say, oh, well, you know what? I just closed that big case yesterday, so I'm going to take today off a little bit. And you look at that and you go, well, is that still chasing the big goal that you want to achieve? And one of my favorite stories I would love for you to share is your relationship when you worked with Alabama, because you talk about that quite a bit with Nick Saban, how his mind thinks, after winning a national championship. Tell us what that was like, because that mindset of a high achiever, directly correlates with business planning. It correlates with your personal planning, because when you start thinking the way like a guy like that, the sky's the limit, right? So tell us a little bit, what was that experience like?
I can tell you, I mean, what always attracted me to Coach Saban, and it's kind of unique, but Coach Saban was actually the head football coach at Michigan State University when I was a student at Michigan State way back in the day. And he actually, way back then, was an unbelievable coach. I mean, he literally took Michigan State, which was not a very strong football program. We finished number 5 in the country, played in the Citrus Bowl. I mean, it was absolutely incredible what he did. And then he started rolling into these big opportunities. LSU, he wins a national championship, goes on to Alabama, flips the program. They're winning national championships. So I was always connected to his mindset, his work ethic, and how he did things based upon the process. Well, after winning a national championship, he had a press conference where one of the reporters said to him, Coach Saban, when are you going to start planning for next year? And Coach Saban said, tonight. And the reporter's like, tonight? Like, Coach Saban, what do you mean tonight? Like, you just won the national championship. And essentially he said, I don't think you understand me. When I do something, I do it better than anybody else. And if I were a street sweeper, there'd be a sign out in front of my house that says, the best street sweeper in the world lives right here. And I hear this and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I waited maybe far too long, although the timing ends up working out all right. It was several months later, and I thought to myself, how can I get a hold of Coach Saban? Now, up until this point, I had been telling myself I am statements of affirmation, that I was going to work and be a performance coach for Alabama football. I am working with Alabama football, a goal that people would have thought I was crazy to even think about. I was just a former financial advisor. More of my talks were in the world of financial advising than they were in the world of sports. Who was I to say I'd work at Alabama? So I said, how am I going to get Nick Saban's attention? How do you get Nick Saban's attention? So I call my friends, the Duvers here in St. Louis, Missouri. They make signs and they do vinyl wrapping and all kinds of things. And I get Joe Duver on the phone. I said, Joe, I need a favor, brother. I need you to make me a sign. He says, I'll make you whatever you want. What do you want? I said, I need a sign. I said, it needs to be big. It needs to be orange. It needs to be obnoxious. And it needs to say, the best street sweeper in the world lives right here. And it needs to have a picture of a cute little street sweeper truck on it. He's like, all right, I'll make you this sign. But he's like, dude, who is this for? I said, it's for Nick Saban. And he literally says, dude, have you lost your mind? I said, brother, I've not lost my mind. I asked you to make me my sign. Are you going to make me my sign? He's like, you've lost your mind, but I will make you your sign. Now I'm going to show this to you guys because we got to bring a little visual to this. So a couple of weeks later, I get a phone call, man, come get your sign. So I show up to Vinyl Images here in St. Louis. I walk in and here's my big orange obnoxious street sign that says the best street sweeper in the world lives right here.
There we go. I love it.
And you're talking about, that's the size of Mohan coaching.
It was pretty big, right? Bigger.
So this sign was the sign of the logo of Mohan coaching right behind Ashwin's head, literally the same size. So John Duver, one of the brothers, he's like, man, we don't even have a box for this. Takes out an X-Acto knife. He had to carve out a box that he creates for this. And I was like, this is it. We're going to get his attention because you cannot. So if all of you want to get a hold of a big prospect, a big business owner, somebody that owns all these medical facilities, this woman who's been written about for months and months and years, she's unbelievable growth in her businesses. You are not going to get her attention with a letter. So I said, we got to make this street sign, make the street sign. I knew that if I didn't send a letter, this showed up in a box, Coach Saban is going to say, what the hell is in that box? So we make this box, we put a letter in, and the letter, essentially says, Coach Saban, I was at Michigan State when you were there. I've always admired your process. Really nice letter. I put in a copy of a book that I'd written back in 2012 called Own Your Success, put that book in, ship the box off. Months go by, nothing. I'm like, man, how could I have not even gotten a canned response? Man, send something back. Come on. I go to a Cardinals day game. I come home from that Cardinals day game and I have an envelope in the mail with a big red Alabama A was the return address. When you're Nick Saban, you don't even have numbers or your name on it. It's a big red Alabama A. That was the return label. I'm like, oh my goodness, Nick Saban has wrote me back. And immediately in my mind, I'm thinking Ashwin, somebody in his office just wrote a little handwritten note. It was a personalized letter to me. It's actually framed over here. It's a personalized letter to me. And it says throughout the letter things that I had said in my letter. It actually said, I love reading books. I'm taking your book up into the mountains. I'm all about the power to choose greatness and make every day victorious, which was the subtitle of the book. Own Your Success, the power to choose greatness and make every day victorious. Remember I mentioned earlier, intentional focus, scrutinizing the details. That's what Coach Saban does when he cares or sees an opportunity. And then it said down at the bottom, P.S., your sign is hanging front and center in the Saban home recruiting room. That letter was in 2014. I then went back and forth, pen pals with Saban. I'd send him books. I get connected with the behavioral therapist, Ginger Gilmore, long story short, it wasn't until 2017 when I sat in Coach Saban's office and he interviewed me and he hired me to be the mental conditioning coach for Alabama football. I saw that in my mind's eye in 2012. I had the courage to send a big sign that would get his attention. And I had the aggressive patience to not give up. Mm-hmm. That really big goal that you just wrote down, it might take you 2, 3, 4 years to get there. I'll tell you, and I don't share this to impress anybody, it's to impress upon the point. Next year, so my goal for this year was the same as my goal last year. And it's actually the same as our goal for next year because the goal was that damn big. Our revenues grew by $2.5 million this year, and we still fell short of that goal. Now, next year, we are hitting this damn goal. But what did I tell you? You set a really big goal, $2.5 million growth we had in 1 year. Think about that. That's a huge difference. So $2.5 million growth, massive growth in terms of percentage, but I'm choosing to get uncomfortable. This goal may end up taking 3 years, although I'm going to tell you right now, we're hitting the damn thing next year. So that's 3 years to get there. That's long obedience in the same direction with aggressive patience. And Ash, when you and I, the number of people that you coach and I get to work with, too many people are protecting themselves from thinking big enough, and they're not doing the courageous things that most people would think you were crazy for. So most people would say, you sent a street sign to coach. I mean, heck, Joe Duver told me I was crazy. Well, if I told you that I knew it was going to lead to 2 national championship rings that are behind my head, was it worth it? And the relationships of the players that are way more meaningful than a ring. It's incredible what happens in your life when you think big, you break it down to what you need to do every day, and you keep that aggressive patience, and you keep a hot pipeline. How many people would have been like, Alabama's going to work, Alabama's going to work, I know it's going to work, and they would have just waited to work. I worked even harder. And then when that opportunity came, I worked even harder. I never pulled back from the work. Allow the big things, that those big goals, to make you hungrier and hungrier and hungrier. And when you win big, keep attacking every day.
I think the 2 things that really stick out and why I wanted you to share that story is we just talked about the long-term goal, right? Getting in front of Saban, that was a 5-year goal, right? And then there's the goal of working with Saban and doing that, and then you're with him for a handful of years. But it took you 5 years just to get into that seat.
To get the damn interview, 5 years.
Right? 5 years. And I think a lot of people, when they start thinking about that, they go, oh my God, what's my big audacious goal? Well, I don't know if I could ever achieve that, or I don't know if it's achievable within a year or whatever it is. I think a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of coaches out there, they kind of press upon that and they go, hey, set realistic goals that that you could hit. And I go, what's the point of that? Right? Just kind of like what you said, your goal is to get in front of Saban and to coach at Alabama and to be on their coaching staff and work with these amazing players. It's going to take time. And your revenue goals, they're going to take time. They might not be an every year thing, but you're still moving with forward progression. And I think what a lot of advisors need to remember is, hey, we are consistently moving one day at a time, taking it one step at a time towards these bigger goals. And you're going to have different goals on different tiers, right? You're going to have the 5-year goal to get in front of Saban, sit in his office and get there and be coaching. Then you're going to have your revenue goal for next year increased by $2.5 million. That's a 1-year goal. Now, granted, they're at different times. We're in 2024. That was a 2017 goal. But, 1 year, you want to increase, and this is the goal you want to hit. 5 years, this is the goal you want to hit. And, this brings me to one of my favorite stories. We've been coaching together for so many years, but it wasn't until the Vegas boot camp last year that I think this was the first time I heard you tell this story. Tell us a little bit about the checks and what you wrote on these checks and kind of the whole process of these checks that you had back in the day as you were growing your business.
Yeah, so I got my money clip in my pocket here. I shouldn't even say it's my money clip. It's actually my money wad. I am old school. I like to keep cash in my pocket And this is actually, yes, this is my daughter's hair tie. So my daughter is 14. I love her to death. That is my fancy money clip that I use. So it tells you that I'm a proud dad. So inside of my money clip, if you go onto the inside, there's some things that are spiritual for me. And then I've got my real money in the money clip. And then these are all fake checks, Ashwin. Look at the number of fake checks I have. So these are all checks that I've written
Make
to
sure
myself.
you cover those routing and account numbers for this call. Don't need to.
So these are all fake checks that I've written to myself over time. So this is how long I've been doing this. First time I did this was in 2010. And what had happened was I had an opportunity to go speak over in Singapore. And I was speaking for the FAA, so it was the Financial Advisors Association of Singapore, which is a unique tie for us from you having family in Singapore. I always smiles on my face when you and I talk about Singapore, because it's one of the most amazing places in the world, as you can attest to. Your grandpa who meant so much to you being there. And so, you know, you think about Singapore and I'm like, finally, I have this international opportunity. So I literally, when I fly home from Singapore, and I had always wanted to be an international speaker. First time I was ever paid to speak was 2006. So here it is, it's 2010. The wheels touch down in St. Louis on the way back from Singapore. And I land Ashwin. I'm like, man, I'm an international speaker now. Like, it just took one time and I became international. And I wrote this fake check to myself. It was the first fake check where I literally increased my speaking fee by a significant margin, because now I was an international speaker. I was brought halfway across the world to give a talk. And so I write this fake check. I want to say it was maybe 2 or 3 months later, and an organization called Great West Life, so one of the top life insurers up in Canada, called me for a multi-city tour. It was like Montreal, Vancouver, Ottawa, 4 different cities in Canada. And each one of those talks had a budget for the check that I had written to myself. Ashwin, I'm reading this. The guy's name was Matt Patterson. I'm reading this damn email and I'm like, wait a second. That number is the exact number that I wrote on this damn check. And you want to pay it to me 4 times, not once. So it was this big contract, like literally 4 times the number on the check. And so what did I do? I wrote another check. And then look at all the checks that I've written over time. Most of these have already happened. There's a handful of them that haven't happened yet. So one of the things that I think is important, that I appreciate you asking the question about the story, it's kind of fun to share those things. I never really share that very often, is that have fun with your goals. You know, my God, Ashwin, the way the world is moving, and there's so many things to be worried about and stressed about. Like, man, if you could have some fun and just believe in yourself again, like when you were a little kid, and write a damn fake check to yourself about your belief and where you think you can go. I'm telling you, there's great power in the law of attraction. There's great power in you become what you think about. All these things that we remember from books like The Secret and, you know, The Secret to Success, and all these things by Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret, all these books that we've read. But here's what I encourage you to do. Lean in, have fun, write those big goals, stretch yourself, but you better not forget to go to work. And I hope that doesn't get lost in this message of, okay, you send a street sign, you do that. You got to put the action, right? So what was the action? You can write a fake check to yourself, but then you got to put in the work every day to earn the right to get paid that amount of money, right? With Coach Saban, like, you got to have the courage to send the street sign, but then you're not like, well, I'll just wait for Coach Saban. He's going to beat my door down. No. If you saw the number of emails and follow-ups and rejection, and not this year, maybe next year, not this year, maybe next year, and you just stay in the fight, but you keep focused on the things you can control, it'll stagger your imagination what you're able to accomplish in your life.
I think it's really important to hit on that final point that you just mentioned, is making sure 2 sides. 1, you're having fun with it, but 2, you're putting in the work. And I think a lot of people, and I was guilty of this. We talked about this down in Mexico when we were with our standard elite group. Chasing top 20 was a big goal for me. And, to do that before 30, Fortune 100 company, unheard of. Only 5 people have ever finished in the top 10 under the age of 30 for this company. And you look at that, for me, I didn't have as much fun with it that I wish I should have had. And, I tell advisors this all the time when I coach them one-on-one, and I go, I think back to the time when I started in the financial services industry. We used to have a small group of guys that it was me and 3 other advisors. And we would basically, at the end of the day, in Bellevue, Washington, we'd sit in the office. It would be about 8 or 9 p.m. And, I couldn't drink at the time, so I wasn't drinking. But, a couple of these guys would be like, all right, let's go grab a case of beer. We're going to sit here in this office and we're going to learn about this business. And we would just chat for hours on case study, on how to help clients, on, what's great planning versus what's not the best planning, where's the line of ethics, what should you be doing to help your clients in the most efficient manner. And, I look back to that. I was coming out of college and, still going to school at night in some capacity. And those are the memories that you have. And so I think back about some of the stuff that you shared, flying to Singapore, landing back in St. Louis, writing those checks, you're recognized as one of the top speakers in the world right now. Thinking back to that and understanding, oh my God, there was so much fun with that. But then now flipping the other side. Okay, I'm having fun with these things, but I'm also needing to go to work every day. And so I look at these goals that you set for yourself, something that you've also instilled in me is, okay, the goal is to increase by X amount of revenue. What are we doing every single day? And I think, putting that into your price rider day, making sure you hit that every single day, making sure that, hey, maybe it's I'm not going to go out there and, in 24 hours trying to figure out how I'm going to do 2.5 million. It's okay. 2.5 million is the goal. That's 200 grand, a little over 200 grand a month. That comes out to X amount a day. I need to bring on this many clients on a monthly basis to hit that 210. And then it's the compound effect. Right? You and I talk about this all the time, making sure we continuously go out there and we hit that compounding effect. As we kind of get into the tail end.
Can I mention something really quick? Because I think it's important. You had mentioned top 20, and it's hard. I mean, you did something at an age when maybe less than 10 people at that age had done something like that, maybe less than 5. I mean, it was just such an amazing goal that you accomplished. Those things are hard. These are hard. And I know it. I mean, you and I went through it together. You're the one who did all the work, but the number of conversations, I know the strain and the pressure and the stress. To figure out how great you can be, it's going to be uncomfortable. I do want to have some fun with this story because it is one memory we both can say was very fun on the journey of you hitting top 20 was you and I having butter cake together in Phoenix. So for those of you that have never had butter cake, like I had you laughing.
It was in LA. It was in LA.
But oh, that's right. That's right. It was in LA. It was in LA. We're about to have butter cake in Phoenix. You guys know I love butter cake, but it's going to prove this point even more. So we had butter cake in LA after we had an event that we did in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. We fly into LA and we're having butter cake. And I can attest to Ashton was having fun. We were smiling. I had Kiana rolling how excited I was to be eating this butter cake. So you did have some fun. But the reason why I bring up this story is because we both were eating butter cake. And many people would think, after listening to the conversation up until this point, these guys are robots. They don't have fun. They just set really big goals, and all they do is this. We cut up and had such a good time. And butter cake is probably one of the worst things you could ever eat in the world. And yes, I stay in very good shape, but I enjoy a good butter cake. Now, if you don't know what butter cake is, I'll encourage you, Google the Uncommon docuseries. So I have a docuseries, and in one of the episodes, I think it's episode 7, was my work with the Miami Dolphins. I've worked with the Dolphins for 8 years. And at the beginning of it, it's me with some of the players eating butter cake. You'll get to see what butter cake is, and you'll see how excited I get when I get my hands on some butter cake. But I share that to say, look, I had butter cake with the Dolphins. I had butter cake with Ashwin, and Ashwin and I are getting ready to be in Scottsdale together, and I'm going to eat more butter cake. Enjoy your damn life. Now, Ashwin and I are both very disciplined people, but you have to have those pockets of time where I'm like, I'm with my guy Ashwin. We've been rolling together all these years. Yes, we're going to have a big old steak, and we're having butter cake tonight. And so I want you guys to know we are human. I still have 2 coaches. I'm still reading books every day. I haven't figured it out, but I'm going to give my damn best every single day that I've got. And I know Ashwin's the same. So I just didn't want that to get lost. I don't want anybody
Yeah,
to hear this
absolutely.
and go, these guys are so uptight. Like, who the hell would ever want to be like that? Like, come hang with us. I promise you we're going to have some fun.
Yeah. And I think there's that medium too. And this is one of the things, and I want you to share a little bit about your upcoming event, because we sent out an email promoting it. We got a few platinum tickets stored away for a couple of our new clients signing up. And then
That's how much I love you, because those damn tickets have been sold out for 2 months.
I know I got a couple in store. And I'm really excited because when I started Mohan coaching, and you and I were chatting about it and we were coaching, and I said, there's something I want to do different for advisors. And what I want to do is, I'm not the guy, I'm trying to run a financial planning practice. I got a bunch of stuff going on. I'm not ready to start throwing my own events, but I want to connect, my coaching clients with other people in that network. Because I think one of the things you said earlier about thinking big, there's not enough people on this planet that do think big. And I
Mm.
think, when I called you back in 2017, it was because in the Dominican Republic, we were sitting at dinner. I don't think we had butter cake at this one, but we were sitting at dinner, we were having a good time. And, all the financial advisors, there were two guys on my right, one guy on my left, and we were chatting about it. And every single one said, hey, you need to get more involved with Ben. It's going to take your business, it's going to grow. And so from the moment I made that call, it was because I was sitting at a table with people that think big. And, every event I've gone to, whether it's Vegas, whether it's your upcoming event in Dallas, the St. Louis one we did at the First Foreign facility last year, every time, I think about my business goals, it's because I'm surrounded by other people that think big. So for those on this call, I want you to pay very close attention to what we're about to discuss. But Ben has an amazing event coming up in St. Louis in April. Ben, I'm going to give you the mic. Take it away. Share a little bit about it and the importance of thinking big and surrounded by the right people.
Yeah, well, first off, I just want to say, I've been doing events and boot camps since 2009. And every time I do a boot camp, there's always a wide range. There's individuals who have performed at the highest possible level. And then there's literally the individuals who are like, I just have to get into that room. Whatever I need to do, however I need to make this happen, I need to be in that room. And when I think back to the Dominican, that at the time was you. I mean, you still had a good
Yeah.
business. We got to give you credit. But that was like, man, I just need to get there. And one of the things we've always done with our events is we create proximity, not only to great speakers, which has been a blessing for me. Some of my dearest relationships are with some of the best in the world that do this type of work, but also proximity to high performers that I've had the blessing of working with. And so you share that Dominican story, it's high performers who then give you a vision. That's where I can go. And so I love the opportunity to do events, because it's not just the speakers, it's not just the content, it's not just the amazing experiences. It's the people that you will meet that are like-minded and uncommon like you, who will support you, love you, and help you grow beyond just that event. And that is one of the things that the proximity creates, which has always been important to us. And so this next big event, where Ashwin has stolen tickets from me, because it's supposed to be sold out, he's stolen platinum tickets. As long as we've been rolling together, he gets to steal some tickets from me. So he's stolen platinum tickets. I want to get that out. So we want to find the right people to attend the event. But these stolen tickets give you the opportunity to come to St. Louis. And on Friday night, special for Ashwin's individuals, you guys will actually have the opportunity to attend the baseball game. So we're actually going to stay downtown at a hotel right across from Busch Stadium. Cardinal baseball is unbelievable. Some of the greatest fans in the world, second winningest tradition behind the Yankees. I've got a suite at the Cardinal games, so you'll be with our Standard Elite Mastermind group, as well as Ashwin and the speakers. We're going to have an amazing night. We're then going to wake up on Saturday. We're going to go to First Form headquarters, one of the most extraordinary business headquarters in the world. First Form is family for me. Andy Frisella, Sal Frisella. We're going to have an amazing workout in the morning. And then that day, you're going to have the opportunity to hear from Dan Martell, who his business book, Buy Back Your Time, is one of the greatest business books ever written. Go 5-10 years from now, his book is going to be recognized as a Bible in leverage, team growth, and stretching yourself to be your best. Sal Frisella and I are going to deliver some amazing content that we have never delivered before. We're going to have Jen Gottlieb, who's speaking, owning the stage, branding, marketing, is one of the top experts, most energetic, passionate human beings you'll ever meet. She's an absolute rock star human being. She'll be live with us. And then we have Adley. Adley is recognized as the #1 producer of viral video content in the world. Her videos produce over 1 billion views a month. So we have put together an amazing lineup. The platinum tickets give you exclusive access to that Cardinals game, to the workout, the VIP lunch, pictures in the locker room at First Forum with all of the speakers, and then an amazing dinner. So picture this. If you guys Google pictures, many of you I know about this First Forum headquarters. We will have dinner in the gym, in the weight room at First Forum, which we did it last year when we had Jerry Rice and Jackie Joyner-Kersee and Chris Pronger and Trent Shelton. It was an amazing event. But this year it's going to be extraordinary with a business lineup I would put up against any speaker lineup in the business industry in 2025. And we're going to have an incredible time. And those platinum tickets are going to give you access behind the scenes, because Ashwin stole them because they were sold out. He went into my tranches and he stole my tickets to give you guys access. So make sure that you're taking advantage of working with Ashwin to get uncomfortable. Because as much as I would love to tell you, hearing us have fun together and sharing this time with you is going to be enough for next year to be your best year ever, it's just not. It's going to take accountability. It's going to take coaching. It's going to take somebody as sharp and as smart as Ashwin. I would submit to you, whatever Ashwin, charges for coaching, imagine one case study that he walks you through because of the cases that he's working on is going to pay for coaching tuition for your grandchildren one day. That's the way that I always looked at it. And really good coaches who are high performers have the ability to do that. It's one of the things that I've always made a promise to with coaching clients. The number of things that I see in the business world, I'm going to help you with one thing that's going to drive more than you're ever going to pay me. One conversation. And then the rest of the time, we're going to have fun, have incredible experiences, and grow an amazing relationship. And that, Ashwin, I would tell you, is probably what I'm most proud of, is that you've recognized through our relationship that that's my belief. That's how coaching is done. Allow your clients to become part of your life. Invite them to events. You become friends with them. You're going to challenge the shit out of them. You're going to, I challenge the shit out of you, but we become friends. Like, I love Ashwin. I love Kiana. And that to me is special. And I love seeing you do it the right way. I'm still pissed you stole my tickets, but something tells me I'm going to get to meet some amazing people who decide to come hang with us.
I'm so excited. I think it's 2 tickets. We're offering one for new signups between now and Feb 1, and then another raffle we got going on for existing clients. So all of our elite members on here, you guys are going to get this video before January 1st, but on January 1st, our team's going to send you an email breakdown, kind of how the content and contest works for getting one of those platinum tickets. But the thing I'm really excited about this one specifically is how you've done such a great job putting the right business people on the speaking panel. Dan's going to be great. Sal's going to be awesome. You're going to be great. The gals are going to be awesome too. But it's all to a specific topic where we can go ahead and implement it immediately into our business. And I think, leaving St. Louis, I know for me, and I've been chatting with a couple guys in our Standard Elite, I'm like, the moment we get out of there, I'm going to connect with you on this because, we're going to have some topics that we're going to work on and, we're going to connect here. And so, St. Louis is going to be awesome. I'm excited for a couple of our coaching clients to get out there and be able to meet you in person as well. We're going to go ahead and put all your socials, website, everything, everything that you got going on with Uncommon Live and everything else in the handle below. So for all you guys on the call that want to follow Ben and keep up with him, I highly encourage it. He's the only guy I know that's worked out like 2,000 days straight. I see that. I forgot to text you on that, but I saw that the other day. I was like, my God, I remember when you first started this thing.
Hey, you've been a part of many of those workouts.
My God, and they are tough. They are tough. But it's the reason why we could eat that butter cake when we're hanging out.
No doubt.
So highly encourage you guys. Ben, thank you so much for joining on our first Titan Talk, and excited for what's to come. And I highly encourage everybody on this call to go ahead and follow Ben as well. All his information is going to be down below.
All right. Ashwin, thank you so much for having me, and to each and every single one of you, just get uncomfortable, lean in, have a great partnership with Ashwin to attack that next level, and just be open, honest, attack every day. And it's amazing the blank checks that you're going to fill in of the things you believe are ones you're going to cash one day. So I believe in you. Go attack, and look forward to seeing you in St. Louis.
Absolutely.